Will Cuylle scores in the third period, and the Rangers outlast the Canes 2-1 for a true blue-collar win. Plus, was that a dirty hit by Sebastian Aho on Adam Fox? All this and more on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 932 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers concluding last night their sixth consecutive win. We were a little bit worried of maybe a little bit of a letdown because, that can happen in the NHL. A team goes on a lengthy road trip, and I think even more so a successful lengthy road trip, and then comes back home, and maybe you just don't have that same edge. Maybe you take your foot off the gas just a little bit, and playing a quality team like the Carolina Hurricanes, always possible that could, bite you and, kind of hurt you in the end result. But the Rangers played very well in this game. Just a blue-collar win, like I said, a situation where they just kind of outlasted the Canes. Even in the second period, as early as like maybe midway through the second period, you start to get the impression that the next goal could win this game. This really could be a 2-1 final, or the next goal at the very least would be the game-winning goal. Maybe you get up 2-1, you get an empty net goal later to kind of seal the deal. But regardless, just kind of had that feel to it that it was going to be low scoring. You had a premier goalie matchup, Igor Shesterkin against Freddie Anderson. The Rangers had obviously won 5 in a row. It's now 6 in a row. Canes had won 3 in a row. Just a premier Metro Division clash here between two elite teams in the Eastern Conference. And once again, the Rangers outlasting the Canes 2-1. Just a really satisfying win, I think, for the fans, for the players, the coaching staff, the whole 9 yards. Hard to find anything to feel bad about after this game, except for the fact that the Rangers were somewhat bit by the injury bug throughout the duration of this game. You had an injury to Adam Fox. You had injury to Filip Chytil. Fox was in the first period, Chytil in the second period. Both were ruled out as far as returning to this game. Going into the following period, start of the second period, we got word that Fox would not be back. Start of the third period, we got word that Filip Chytil would not be back. And obviously, we keep our fingers crossed that those guys are okay and they can be back out there as soon as Saturday against the Wild, or if not that game, at least hopefully soon thereafter. The Rangers did mention that they would update both players today. They said this yesterday on Thursday that it would be happening tomorrow. It's now tomorrow. It's today. It's Friday. Haven't seen anything yet as of Friday morning. Checked one more time before I hit the record button here, but obviously we'll just keep our fingers crossed that those guys are okay. But a lot of people talking about the injury that occurred with Adam Fox. And, for anybody that might have missed it, basically Adam Fox is over the Canes blue line, and he's away from the play. He doesn't have the puck or anything like that. Sebastian Aho is approaching him, and leg on leg, Adam Fox goes down. Nothing called on Sebastian Aho. I was thinking maybe they might get interference at that point because, again, this contact happened pretty far away from the play. It's not like Adam Fox had just passed and Aho was finishing his check or anything like that. Just kind of a random collision in the middle of the ice. And, a lot of people on both sides, there were Ranger fans saying that Aho, that was a dirty play and he should have been penalized and should be fined and suspended in the whole 9 yards. And then there's some Canes fans thinking that Adam Fox maybe did something wrong in this play. From my point of view here, my biggest issue with this play, as far as what Aho did, is kind of what I just talked about. The fact that this collision, he seemed to initiate it, and it happened pretty far away from the play. But as far as, people saying that Aho stuck his leg out and was purposely trying to go knee on knee with Adam Fox, I didn't really see that either. I mean, I thought they were both kind of stationary, and then at the last second, it looked like Fox tried to avoid the contact, was unable to do so. And I've said this before, knee on knee, it's a dirty play if you do it intentionally, but you also have to be out of your mind to do that because you're putting yourself in jeopardy just as much as you're putting your opponent in jeopardy. Obviously you don't want to be taking blows to the knee out there. You can really, mess yourself up and end up missing, a lot of games, maybe even the whole season if it goes wrong. But yeah, the Rangers kind of waited on this after the game. You had Pierre Laviolette. He did not like the hit. Laviolette did not like the hit at all. That's what he had to say about it. I was running the bench at the time and didn't see it. I saw it on the TV monitor quickly. I went in and looked at it after the period, especially from the overhead. I didn't like the hit. And then Jacob Trouba was asked about it after the game too. And he said something that was a little bit funny. I don't know if he was trying to be funny or not, but he said, and I watched the video, but, he kind of has like that, I guess, dry sense of humor. Anytime he does show any kind of lighter side, Jacob Trouba, he's usually all business. But this is what he had to say about it. I got to fight every time I do something. So figured he should probably have to answer to that too, but he didn't feel that way. And when Trouba said that, he's talking about Aho, and there were a couple times later in this game, Alexis Lafreniere really wanted a piece of Sebastian Aho. He went after him a couple of times. There was also a play where there was a stoppage in front of the Ranger net. I believe Igor, gloved the puck, held it for a stoppage, and Miller kind of hit Aho a little bit after the play, and Aho just didn't want anything to do with either player. And, for Aho, and when Trouba made his comments, he specified that, he didn't feel like Aho necessarily had to fight him being Jacob Trouba, because obviously that's a little bit of a mismatch. But when you've got Alexis Lafreniere challenging Sebastian Aho to a fight and Aho's backing down from it, I mean, I don't know. They're similar build. Neither one of them are really known as being fighters. We've seen Lafreniere do it from time to time. But, you got Lafreniere going after Aho and wanting him to drop the gloves, and he won't do it. And then, you've got Svechnikov going after Lafreniere. And Svechnikov's a lot bigger than Lafreniere is compared to Aho. So I don't know. And, they got to protect each other and watch out for their teammates like every team in the league does. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like Aho could have obliged here. And, I can't go so far as to call it a dirty hit. But when something like that happens, and when the Rangers are aware of the fact that it's not just the Rangers, use any team in the NHL, when you're aware of the fact that one of your star players has been taken out on a hit that's somewhat questionable, on a hit that was knee to knee, on a hit that happened away from the play, yeah, the guy that delivered that hit is going to be a marked man for the rest of the game, and that was certainly the case here. It was nice to see the Rangers going after Aho a little bit and trying to make him answer for what he did, and Aho just wanted no part of it. But it is what it is. As far as what happens if Adam Fox or Filip Chytil or both end up missing time, and obviously fingers crossed that they don't, fingers crossed that they're okay and they can be right back out there on Saturday against the Wild. I mean, hopefully it's a situation where the Rangers, they're 8-2 now, and that solves a lot of problems. That cures a lot of what ails you. You can look at this player maybe not playing up to his potential, or this guy's not doing this. Bottom line, the team's 8-2, and the Rangers, as such, they're in a situation where they don't really need to rush these guys back out there. Obviously, you would love to have them against the Minnesota Wild on Saturday night, but I'd rather them err on the side of caution with either or both of these players. And they have to miss one game out of an abundance of caution, rather than, okay, let's rush them back in there, and then they do something to make the injury worse, and then they're out for like 10 or 15 games. We certainly don't need that, especially once again with the Rangers off to the start they're off to, winning 6 in a row now and sitting with a record of 8-2. So we'll see what happens there. But as far as what happened in this game and what would happen going forward if these players have to miss time, I mean, we can start with Fox. I think if Fox misses time, that's going to be interesting, because you got to figure Zach Jones is going to step into the lineup. But if that's the case, the Rangers then would have just 2 right defensemen, and they would have 4 left defensemen. The 2 right defensemen would be Trouba and Schneider. So somebody's going to have to play on the side that they're not really used to playing on. And I think what I would probably do is put Erik Gustafsson, move him from the third line to the first line. He can play the right side. He'd be out there with Ryan Lindgren. You keep Miller and Trouba together. Obviously, they've played very well. And then Zach Jones is out there with Braden Schneider. I mean, you could put Zach Jones on the top line, top pairing, but I don't think they're going to do that. To begin with, Gustafsson has already kind of established himself as clearly he's going to be the guy in the lineup and not Zach Jones. So it wouldn't really make any sense for them to do that unless you just want to keep Gustafsson with Schneider, but I don't think that's 100% necessary either. Obviously, with Schneider, he's used to playing with a million different defense partners anyway. So I don't think that's a big deal. And I would think Gustafsson would probably move up to the top pairing and move over to the right side to play with Lindgren. And if Filip Chytil has to miss time, probably what you're looking at is Vincent Trocheck is going to move from the third line back up to the second line with Artemi Panarin. The 2 of them are reunited. Lafreniere's on the right wing with them. And then I would think probably Barclay Goodrow ends up centering the third line, because you need a center there. And I don't think you're going to put Bonino on the third line. So Goodrow probably centers the third line. And then Tyler Pitlick is back in the lineup, probably at fourth line right wing, because he plays right wing. He doesn't really play left wing. Vesey can play either wing. He probably moves over to fourth line left wing. But I'm getting ahead of myself because obviously, again, we don't know what the injuries are. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. And again, hopefully they can both be back out there on Saturday night. But if they're not, I think those are probably the changes you're looking at as far as the lineup is concerned. And I know some people, with a forward going down, there's going to be some thought about, well, do you bring Brandon Othman up? It's possible. There could be a deal where, Brandon Othman gets broken into the Rangers very, very gradually. Kind of think about what they did with Will Cuylle last season. Obviously, with Cuylle, he got called up for a few games, only played 4 games, went back down. It's possible Brandon Othman gets his first taste of Ranger hockey. We will see. But, I think if it's a short-term thing, that the more likely scenario here is that Pitlick's going to mix into the lineup. And again, we don't know that they're going to miss any games, and we hope that they don't. Going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to talk about whether or not this was the best win of the season thus far for the Rangers. It's got some competition, but this is certainly in the mix. Also going to talk about Chris Kreider, the goal that he scored, and kind of reopen a debate. Is he an all-time New York Ranger great? We're going to get to all that fun stuff in just a second. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Parkview. As a business owner, you realize there are times when receivables might fall behind, but that doesn't mean you need to fall behind on vendor payments, payroll, or rent. For more than 25 years, Parkview Advance has helped businesses secure working capital. From $5,000 to $1.5 million, Parkview Advance can approve your working capital in as little as 24 hours. It's a much easier process than you might imagine. We invite the many entrepreneurs that are Locked On NHL fans to learn more by calling us at 203-675-0071. Again, that is 203-675-0071, or go to parkviewadvance.com. If your business needs working capital, call Parkview Advance today. Parkview Advance, helping businesses with their working capital. Go to parkviewadvance.com. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is also brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Do not spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Hate waiting? Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank everybody, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And for the everydayers, stick around. We got a Saturday night matchup against the Minnesota Wild. Going to be breaking down whatever happens there. It's definitely an intriguing matchup for the Rangers, and we'll see how it goes, and might be back here with a special Sunday edition episode for you guys then. But for right now, again, let's move the conversation to debating whether or not this was the best win of the season for the New York Rangers. In terms of like pure domination and offensive fireworks and all that, it wasn't. But I think when you look at a couple of things here, you look at the fact that this was a low-scoring, grinded-out game. It was a little bit of a goalie duel. Both goalies were making some pretty big saves in this game as well. The fact that it was tied 1-1 going into the third period. The Rangers had to win a period to win the game. They were able to do that. You look at the fact that this game was won by something of an unlikely hero in Will Cuylle. You look at the fact that the Rangers lost a couple of players, a couple of really important players in this game. They basically were having to play without Filipino for half the game and without Adam Fox for more than 2/3 of the game. And that's the best defenseman maybe in the world, or certainly up there. And with Filipino, that's your second line center. So they had to play a man down. Guys were obviously mixing and matching the rest of the game as far as line combinations and defense pairings were concerned. And the Rangers still found a way to get it done. Rangers defended very well in this game. You have to like that. There were chunks of this game where there wasn't really a whole lot happening, at least in terms of offensive chances for both teams. Both teams played very well in the neutral zone. And to counteract that, the Rangers and Canes both kind of went to a dump and chase game. Even that wasn't really working all that well. The scoring chances were few and far between. Igor made some good saves in this game, especially down the stretch in the third period. That's when he was at his best. But really, this was something of a defensive struggle. It was a situation where the Rangers just had to outlast a fellow elite team, and that's exactly what they did. So for my money, yeah, this is, whether the offensive fireworks were there or not, this was the best win of the season for the New York Rangers. And I mentioned a second ago that we got something of an unlikely hero. I said it was Will Cuylle. There were actually two. We're going to throw Jacob Trouba in there too, because he made an awesome play on the game-winning goal that the Rangers scored about midway through the third period. So Trouba has the puck at the point. And we know the Canes, they love to pressure the puck. They're very aggressive, especially defensively. Trouba's got the puck at the point. He's got a forward bearing down on him. Doesn't have a lot of room or a lot of time to do much of anything. So he chips the puck over the stick of the oncoming Canes forward and moves ahead, picks it up, wins a 50-50 battle for the puck against Tony DeAngelo, of all people. He eventually gets possession of the puck in the corner. Then he passes in front of the net to Will Cuylle, and Cooley's there on the doorstep, and he tips it home, gives the Rangers a 2-1 lead. The defenseman for the Canes on this play laid out to try to break up the pass, could not quite reach it, and Will Cuylle, Johnny on the spot. But an excellent play by Trouba to set the thing up. Great instincts by Will Cuylle to get to the net there, and obviously finish from the doorstep. So great stuff there. Just one aspect of why this was such a great win. Also, I love the way the Rangers concluded this game. The final 3 minutes or so by the Rangers, I thought were awesome. The Canes got a couple of chances, but never really a situation where you thought that they were about to score, I don't think. And I've been standing up for the fourth line a little bit on this show. People are all over them because this chart says this and that chart says that, and their expected goals per 60 isn't any good. Listen, with the fourth line, would a little bit of offense be nice? Yeah, it would, at least every once in a while. But I don't see these guys as massive liabilities the way that other people do. And Peter Laviolette was asked about the fourth line, and he made a good point that line, more often than not, when they take the ice for a faceoff, it's very common that it's in the Rangers zone because he wants them to be that shutdown line. He wants good defensive forwards out there when there's a faceoff happening in the Rangers zone. And so that's part of the reason why, their expected goals allowed is so much higher than their expected goals for, is because they're in their own zone to start almost every shift. I mean, not every shift, but how often do you see the fourth line for the Rangers or really any team taking an offensive zone draw? It doesn't happen all that often. So that's part of the reason I think why those numbers are skewed. And as far as just tangible evidence, just watching the conclusion of this game, they were out there grinding with 3 minutes remaining. You had Bonino, Goodrow, and Vesey. They were on the ice with about 2:50 to go, and the puck is in the Carolina zone, and it's along the boards, and Goodrow and Bonino were in there, and they've got three Canes all over them. They're all trying to get the puck away from them. Goodrow and Bonino are just going to work there. They will not give up the puck. They will not let the Canes dig it out of there. They know the clock is their friend, and the more time they can kill here, even though they're going to be taking abuse from the players trying to get the puck away, the better situation the Rangers are going to be in. And the fans really appreciated it too. You could hear the Garden. The longer that puck stayed along the boards there, and the more that those two were grinding and keeping it from, being taken away by the Canes, the louder the crowd got. So awesome to see the Rangers appreciate that as well. You also had a play with 1:47 to go here. Mika and Kakko both stood up Natchez at the Ranger blue line and cleared the puck. Anderson was about to go to the bench, but he couldn't do it because great defensive play. Mika and Kakko kind of tag teaming Natchez there. And then, a little bit later, there's a timeout with 37 seconds to go. You've got Trocheck, Lindgren, Trouba, Bonino, Goodrow on the ice. So there's 2 out of the 3 of the forwards on the fourth line out there in crunch time, out there in a situation where the Rangers have to protect a 1-goal lead, which is something they haven't had to do all that often. But again, those guys have value. Bonino has value. Goodrow has value. Now, I realize, again, that Goodrow, a lot of people are going to fixate on the contract, $3.61 million or whatever it is. Yeah, it probably is too much for a fourth-line player, but that doesn't mean he doesn't do things to occasionally help this team. This is a huge spot in the game, and there are the Rangers turning to 2 of their fourth-line players to go out there and, hey, let's make sure we protect this lead. Let's make sure we don't give up the equalizer, and that's exactly what happened. And again, they just do a nice job. They got away with what I thought was an icing with 30 seconds left, but down the stretch here, really nice job by the Rangers just kind of grinding out the clock. You got Bonino working the puck up the boards and out. Rangers work out of the zone to Trocheck. Trocheck gets it to Goodrow. Would have loved to have seen Goodrow finish this empty netter here. There was less than 10 seconds left. He missed the net or kind of put it off the side of the net. But regardless, time was going to run out anyway. So a really nice win. And another way this is a really good win, Peter Laviolette, usually very stoic, very calm after the game. It'd be hard to even tell if he's, if his team won or lost based on his reactions. But he was clapping on the bench. You can tell that, he probably, I could bet anything. Peter Laviolette will take a win like this over a 6-5 win any day of the week. And, there's 82 games. Give me an occasional 6-5 Ranger win. But I think a lot of Ranger fans, this is a very gratifying win. These kinds of wins are more satisfying than the ones where you're just trading rushes up and down the ice and, not really playing a lot of defense. Maybe the goalies are not having their best nights either. This is just a really, really nice win for the Rangers. So we're keeping everything rolling in just a second. Talk about whether Chris Kreider is an all-time great for the Rangers. It's a debate that kind of gets opened up every now and then here on Locked On New York Rangers, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But first, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you ever gotten the blues around this time of the year just because, the weather's getting a little bit colder? It's the end of the year. It can be a little bit stressful during the holiday season. One thing that always kind of bugs me is always, there's less daylight. Obviously, you got the clock adjustment coming up the next couple of days here, and that means the sun starts setting at like 2 p.m. So I've definitely been there myself. This time of year can be a lot, and it's natural to feel some sadness or anxiety about it. But adding something new and positive to your life can counteract some of those feelings. Therapy can be a bright spot amid all of the stress and change, something to look forward to make you feel grounded, and to give you the tools to manage everything that's going on. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma, etc. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Find your bright spot this season with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL today to get 10% off your first month. Again, visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNHL. Let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. I wanted to close out today's episode by giving Chris Kreider some props. He obviously, he's climbing on a lot of these all-time Ranger lists, and there's a lot of debate that goes on about, is he truly an all-time Ranger great? Does he really deserve to have his jersey in the rafters at some point? And it's a concept that we've discussed kind of off and on throughout this entire show's existence, really. I mean, you could go back as far as you want to go back. And once we knew that he was going to stick with the Rangers, there was the trade deadline that one year where he was either going to sign an extension or be traded because the Rangers weren't going to make the playoffs and they couldn't allow him to walk for nothing in free agency. He stayed with the team, and props to him for doing that. He's had some of his best seasons ever since that happened. But to break down what he did in this game, he scored the first goal of the evening on the power play. The Rangers were on the power play thanks to the Canes taking a too many men penalty. And you've got a situation where, Trocheck didn't get credited with an assist here, but, he had the puck at the blue line. He was doing a nice job protecting it. Apparently, the Canes player is the one that kind of knocked it away from him, and it went over to Panarin. And then Panarin, really nice pass out of the corner there to Chris Kreider in front of the net. Kreider with the deflection knocks it home and gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead. And as a quick aside here, Artemi Panarin, his point streak to start the season is now at 10. He's got 15 points overall. The all-time record for Rangers point streak to start a season, nobody should be surprised by this. It's Rod Gilbert. He had a streak of 14. So, Panarin's, he's kind of closing in there. It's not like one of the all-time NHL records, but it'd be pretty cool to see Panarin either tie or break that record. And I believe with this goal, the Rangers have now scored at least one power play goal in 9 of their 10 games so far this season. Don't apologize for having an awesome power play. I realize sometimes the Rangers, a little bit of an over-reliance on the man advantage. They could play a little bit better 5v5. I get that. But having a great power play, I mean, that's obviously something that can help you win some hockey games. And obviously the Rangers have been taking advantage of their power play opportunities thus far in the season. But back to Chris Kreider here. With the goal, he is now tied 4th all-time in Ranger history with the late Andy Bathgate. Both of them have 272 goals. He is going to pass Adam Graves. I did not write down Graves' total here. I believe he's at 280. Regardless, Kreider is very much within striking distance. And honestly, he could pass him before the month is over. That's definitely, it's possible. He'd have to have a heck of a month, but it's doable. In second place all-time for the Rangers is Jean Rattel at 336 goals. He's going to pass him too, I think, as long as he remains a Ranger. Rod Gilbert is first all-time with 406. That's going to be tough, but not impossible. I think the odds are probably against it. But if you look at where Kreider is right now, he's fourth all-time, tied for fourth all-time, and he's 134 goals off the mark. And as far as his contract is concerned, he's got this year and then 3 more years still on his contract. And if he plays out that entire contract, he'd have to average like 34 or 35 goals a season to pass Rod Gilbert, which is not going to be an easy thing to do. But possibly if that contract ends and the Rangers still feel, I mean, Kreider's going to be older then, obviously, but if they feel like he still has a role, he still provides value in one way or another, maybe by then he's kind of like a bottom 6 type forward, and they want to bring him back at a price that they feel is reasonable. At that point, if he gets another contract with the Rangers, he might very well become the all-time New York Ranger goal scorer. And just to run through a couple of other stats I found interesting as far as where Kreider is in relation to some all-time Ranger greats, for plus minus, 6 all-time at plus 110, one ahead of Derek Stepan, his former teammate. He is 7th in even strength goals, 5th in power play goals. This is a record that he might get, the all-time leader in Rangers power play goals. He's got 97 right now. Camille Henry has 116 power play goals, first all-time with the Rangers. Now, Kreider could get there, especially, again, if he finishes out this contract with the Rangers. I think he will get there. He might, though, face a little bit of competition from his BFF. Kreider right now, 97 power play goals. Mika Zibanejad is right behind him with 90 career power play goals. Can you imagine a scenario where both of them are tied and like they're one away from tying the all-time record? Neither of them would ever shoot the puck. They'd just be passing it back and forth, trying to let the other one, claim the record before, he himself gets there. So that would definitely be an interesting situation. But we talk about this every now and then. Should his jersey be in the rafters? The one thing that to me ends the debate, clinches it 100% for Chris Kreider, and the everydayers probably know what I'm going to say before I even say it here. The one thing that to me seals the deal 100%, his jersey goes to the rafters, is if the Rangers win a Stanley Cup while Chris Kreider is still on this team. I don't care if he's 39 or 40 years old and he's a complete passenger at that point. He's playing 6 minutes a night on the fourth line. If he's on that roster and the New York Rangers win a Stanley Cup, Kreider's jersey goes into the rafters. No debate. Not going to debate it. End of story. He's there. If that does not happen, if the Rangers do not win, I hate even saying that, because that would mean there's going to be at least a few more years of no Stanley Cups for the Rangers. And, obviously we want them to get another one here. But if that does not happen, there's a little bit of a debate. But when you look at where Kreider already is right now on some of the lists of like all-time Ranger players, and, he's in the top 5 for goals scored and, power play goals scored. He's going to be up there as far as games played when it's all said and done as well, assuming he finishes out this contract. I don't know that you can really keep him away from that. If he's like he's going to be bare minimum third all-time in goals scored by a New York Ranger. He's going to be possibly second, possibly first all-time. I think sooner or later, his jersey's going to have to go up there. And it might be a situation where he has to wait a little while. You think of like Henrik Lundqvist. Basically the second he retired, they were already planning his night, his special night. Kreider might have to wait a little while. I don't think he's on like Henrik Lundqvist level as far as like all-time New York Ranger great, but he's going to have his place. And I think when it's all said and done, he probably should be up there, and he probably will be up there at some point. Also, one other random thing I want to talk about here before we call it a day here is apparently the NHL decided in the middle of this Ranger Carolina game that high sticks are now legal, because there were no fewer than 4 high sticks against the Canes that were not called penalties throughout the duration of this game. That honestly made me more upset than the Aho play not being called a penalty. I realize with Aho, there's far greater consequences because Adam Fox suffered an injury, had to leave the game. So, I get that. But in terms of just missing calls, I mean, Goodrow was down on the ice, and granted, he's down on the ice. You're more susceptible to take a stick to the face at that point, but he got cross-checked like 3 times while he's down on all fours. He gets a stick to the face. Nothing is called. There was a scramble in front of the Ranger net at this time, and, Trouba was able to get the clear. That's what happened when the puck was back on the Rangers side of the rink. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Trouba because he really played a great game. But getting back to the high sticks here, Lafreniere took a high stick right after this. Right after Trouba, or right after Goodrow did. Svechnikov randomly went after Lafreniere, and Lafreniere cut a high stick right before that, and this is one of 2 times that Svechnikov went after Lafreniere in this game. Basically, Lafreniere caught a stick to the face while he was along the boards. Svechnikov goes after him for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Maybe he saw him picking on Aho a little bit earlier in the game. I don't know. But then this is the one that was really blatant. It happened in the second period. Vincent Trocheck, his nose was bleeding. And the reason his nose was bleeding is because during a face-off, he was up against Kokoniemi, and Kokoniemi's stick goes into the air as soon as the puck is dropped and just hits Trocheck right in the nose. Trocheck goes down, and nothing is called. I mean, what is the referee looking at on this play? It's a face-off. There's not a whole lot to really look at. Nobody's really engaged the second that the puck drops. The only real engagement is, you've got the centers fighting for the puck. The wings are going to try to get in there. There's not really a whole lot going on. How do 2 referees miss a blatant high stick? And Trocheck was bleeding, which by the letter of the law, this should have been a double minor. And then later in the game, Aho catches K'Andre Miller with a high stick. So there were 4 different high sticking penalties, one of which should have been a double minor. So basically, the Canes got away with 10 penalty minutes, having 0 of them being called. Now, they were taking penalties early in this game. Were the Canes? Did the refs just think that, like, oh, well, they've already reached their quota, we don't have to call any more penalties against them? I've never seen a situation where this many different high sticks were not called penalties. So, and you guys know, the everydayers, you guys know, I don't put a whole lot on the referees. It's pretty rare that I really, really call out the refs. But with all that said, let's go ahead and bury these guys for obviously missing a bunch of high sticks on the night. Only other thing I want to mention before we call it a day here, Igor Shesterkin was awesome. Again, was at his best, making clutch saves down the stretch when the Rangers needed him the most. Again, stopped 26 of 27 shots. Just another night at the office for Igor Shesterkin. Honestly, I could spend half of every game recap episode on Igor Shesterkin, but so much happened in this game. We're dealing with some injuries, and Chris Kreider, wanted to talk a little bit about him. Will Cuylle, he's got his moment in the sun from this game as well. So, kept the Igor talk to a minimum in this game, but I mean, you guys know how good he is. You watch this team every night, and no goalie in the world that I'd rather have on my team right now than Igor Shesterkin. That will do it for today, though, guys. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.